Okay, your phone on vibrate.
Yes.
I'm living a beautiful life. I'm making a beautiful life.
One, as we are having a little lag. Can you hear me?
I'm living a beautiful life. I'm making a beautiful life. I'm changing, arranging. I see a beautiful day. It's coming my way. It's a beautiful day.
Good evening, good evening. And so, as the intro does a little delayed, we do not want to delay this amazing interview on tonight. And so, I am excited. I am your host, Queta J.Q. Lee, and I have the esteemed pleasure of interviewing Principal Alton Bolden. So, welcome to ABL.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, I know this has been a busy week, as you prepare for some upcoming events. And so I do thank you for taking the time to come on. And I know you have some exciting news that is happening at Piney Grove Academy. So we're going to jump right into the interview. So how's everything for you today? How's everything?
Every day. Well, today was another busy day. There's never a dull moment, even though it was an early release day. We still had a very impactful day and impactful week. So each day we're trying to expose our kids to something different and new that's going to benefit them later in life. So I thank you for this opportunity.
It is my pleasure. And so, as we were preparing for this interview, and I'm talking to people, they definitely want to hear more about the academy. So, we have people who are already in the comment section. And so, we'll check over to see what questions you all may have for the principal at the end. Good evening. Welcome, Ms. Moten. And so, I want to jump right into it. You coming from a family of not just one, but two parents being principals, and now you holding that position. What was the inspiration behind you wanting to become a principal as well?
Um, well, really, the story goes, I was just hanging around my parents all the time. It's like if your parents coach or play sports and you're always at the park, you're probably going to play sports too. So, my parents were both educators. My mom started out teaching, I believe, at Margate Middle, and then eventually she became a principal. And my dad, the same. He started out at Dillard High School, and eventually, he also became a principal. And as we watched them maneuver through the years, we saw that was like the goal. It wasn't just to become an educator, but it was to become the top educator. And top educator being the principal, the example was set early. So we watched them from grooming teachers to helping each other to helping kids. I liked how people talked about them. I liked how the kids respected them. I liked how the people in the church and the community looked up to my parents and came to them for answers. So I watched how they solved problems. I liked how they kept the family together, and they took a lot of the family style of raising us. They took that to work, and I watched how my dad would be stern but be caring, be loving, and showing a good example to a lot of the boys that I went to school with. And I saw my mom take the bull by the horns and be the leader of not just middle schools, but high schools. And eventually she was over several schools. So that took a lot of grit. That took a lot of hard work. And they never wavered. So I said, if they could do it, so could I. And I liked how a lot of people continue to come back and say thank you. How the little kids would grow up and become adults and send their kids to my parents' school. So it really left a big impression on me. And I too started to do the same thing and coach and take care of other people's children and try to make good examples for those kids as well. And then eventually I became a principal. So it kind of wasn't a choice. It was like, this is what you're going to do and like it. And back in those days, you kind of listen to your parents. And it's something that we should kind of get back to in a sense, so that our kids have a better sense of direction. Because with the looseness and with not a real good guide on what to do, you kind of need somebody to steer that truck or to steer that bus in a good direction. So at least if you don't become a principal, you become something that's going to be beneficial to others and you can give back to your community. So I really appreciate the example that my parents set. And I hope that I'm setting a good example for the kids at the school today.
So you said a mouthful. So you're speaking of this secession that has taken place from your parents to you almost being groomed to become a principal. And there was you said that I see through the theme of Piney Grove, the word family. How important is it for you to create an atmosphere where the youth feel a family oriented school setting? And how important was that between the students as well as your staff in creating that type of environment?
Well, the family environment is very important. Right now, I work with my mom and dad, and everybody who comes or I tell that story to, they're like, "Wow, you work with your parents. I know you hate it." But actually, for me, it's refreshing. I'm reminded whether I'm doing a good job or not. And to get that accolade of being a pat on the back, that goes a long way. That goes a lot further than money does. It's like teach a person to fish. They can feed themselves for many days to come. And with those types of attaboys, it makes me want to go further and further. So that makes me want to go further. That family environment is something that was honed in because my mom and dad would go to work and they're doing the same thing. And then we went to school with them. So it was always, "Hey, dad." And then I would hear other kids call my dad, and other staff members who were younger. So that family environment, it was learned early. So me being an administrator, I learned that it's tough to be what you don't see. So a lot of kids are coming from broken homes and broken families. So we try to give them that family environment when they come to Piney Grove. So putting your arms around them, and not just putting your arms around them, but putting arms around my teachers, my custodians, my cafeteria worker. I just hired a custodian last year, and he was coming from Orlando. He didn't have much family, and we kind of took him under our wing, and he calls me his big brother, and he's older than me. He calls my dad and calls my mom, and he's not afraid of it. So that is the type of environment that kind of builds trust. You know, blood doesn't make you family. It's the people that care about you that do. And I talk to parents all the time, and I tell them it's about the amount of time you spend with the kid, and they'll allow you to check them off the time that you're spending. But if you just show up when there's a problem, or you just show up when there's a birthday, it's going to be difficult to build that family bond and trust. So what we do is we show them that everything that you do, we're going to be there for the good times and the bad, and we still love you. So giving kids that guidance, reassuring them that it's going to be okay when things aren't right, that's what kids need, because often we're so quick to point out what they do wrong, but when do we give them praise for what they're doing right? And that's what that family environment does at Piney Grove.
That's it. And that's a powerful reasoning behind that family term. And I just definitely want you to be able to share that with our beautiful viewing audience, because when you're talking about the dynamics of a smaller school setting versus a public school setting, a lot of times that can be missed. They have, such an overwhelming responsibility of sometimes 30, 35. I even see some of my teachers on here in the comments section. a number of students where they can't always have that one-on-one with the children as they would like to. And so take us up to the beginning in reference to how was the school started? What was the vision behind Piney Grove, now Academy, formerly known as Piney Grove Boys Academy? So take us from the beginning.
Okay, the school started back in 2013. It was originally supposed to start in 2012, and what it was a vision of Dr. Hughes. Dr. Derek Hughes is our former pastor of First Baptist Church, Piney Grove, and he had a vision of this school from Chicago where the kids, I guess he said it was a movie he was watching, and all the kids wore the blazers and the ties and the khaki pants. And he said, man, we should have a school like that. And he said, you know what? We should be a pillar in the community. And that pillar should be affecting something that needs change. And at the time when we started in 2012, I want to say the SHOT report for 2011 said the graduation rate among Blacks and Caucasian males were below 35%. And that was astronomical. It was screaming at us that, hey, we need to do something for the boys in this community because we're failing. We're not graduating, which means men are no longer head of the household. They're not taking jobs. They're not being leaders. And what could we do that would be more impactful than starting an all-boys school? So at the time, there was no other all-boys school in Broward County. And we did a lot of things that were different from any other private school. We made our kids wear shirt, tie, blazer, belt, khaki pants. And this was the uniform for every day. So we made them dress for success early. With the dressing for success, it eliminated who was poor, who was rich, who was homeless. It took away what culture you came from. Everybody's now on the same playing field. We all look the same. So let's get rid of that distraction of who has money and who doesn't. We got rid of the distraction of girls. Now let's focus on educating our boys. So with that drive, we started with 33 boys in 2013. And we started with no advertisement. We started with no trailers. It was just by word of mouth. Listen, we're starting an all boys school. If you want change, send them this way. So I would go out to the parks, pass out flyers, talk to coaches, go to different games. I'm passing out flyers. I'm at parades, passing out flyers. Before the school even started, I think I walked in 4 parades, and I was on 2 football teams trying to recruit kids to make a difference. And once we were able to get 30 or 35 kids enrolled, we had our teachers, and First Baptist Piney Grove allowed us to use the educational suites on the north side of the church. So we had a place to go. Now we just needed the bodies. And once we got the kids in, it was easy because they were looking for acceptance. They hadn't got it because in the public schools, we were looking at the suspension rates, and boys were being suspended, or Black boys were being suspended 10 times more than anybody else, than the women, than their counterparts. It just made it very difficult for boys to be successful. The media was portraying boys to be these super eager boys that were uncontrollable. We were looked at as uncaged animals, and it was our job to change that paradigm. So we went by changing the way they look. They have to have haircuts. The haircuts, their hair has to be pulled back or tapered. We changed the way their attitudes were because we would talk to them. It wasn't just educating, but we were putting them in situations that increase their life skills, from talking to different people to inviting different business owners to come out to the school and speak, to show them you don't have to be a football player or a basketball player to be successful. You can be a dentist. You can own a gas station. You can work at a barbershop. Anything that's going to put you in a position where you can give back to society and make an honest living is who we invited out to the school. So the vision of creating an harmonious environment so that kids could feel free to express themselves without getting in trouble, we did that. So, for them, expressing themselves, we talked to them about how you deal with the problem. Most boys know to deal with their problems with their fists instead of with their words. So we had to go through showing them in aha moments, this is how you are to handle a situation. Somebody cuts you in line and steps on your shoes. You don't push them out of the way. You acknowledge or make them aware of what has happened, and you move on. You don't stay in the negative. You move on to something positive. And if you don't have anything positive to say, don't say anything at all. So this has been something that we've encouraged kids to do since day one, is use your words to express how you're feeling. Don't hide behind the mask. Don't wait
Right.
to express yourself when you're ready to explode, but learn
Right.
that using your words releases you. So the vision definitely was started by the pastor, and we've been able to carry that on to today.
And so, as you now shift, because you originally started off with fulfilling that need for those young men, I don't like to use the word at risk, but I do want to bring into the conversation the school to prison pipeline. And so, when you're thinking about the statistics related to that, you've made mention of the graduation rate. I love the fact that Piney Grove said, you know what, let's be proactive. Let's actually invest in these young people, and versus feeling that this generation is gone, there's no help for them. And I had an opportunity to see at your school what it is that you all are doing in the lives of these young people, because it's so important that you continue to have an expectation for young people. At the end of the day, they will try to meet those expectations. And so when you're looking at them, I see how the staff looks at the youth with just that glimmer of hope in their eyes, and staying on them and making sure that they're doing the right thing. Talk a little bit about that transition, from meeting the needs of the young ladies to now all, excuse me, the young men, and to now the young ladies.
Wow. That was definitely a challenge. Myself having four daughters, I understand that girls are definitely different than boys. We actually go to, or we go to trainings that teach us how boys learn differently than girls. And one of the biggest things is boys want to be respected, girls want to be loved. So as long as they feel that love, they'll do whatever it is they need. And same thing with the boys. So the I guess the slippery slope is, how do you balance the two? Because girls now are just as bold and brazen as the boys are. So trying to learn how to manipulate that curriculum and deal with discipline and motivate them at the same time has been definitely a challenge for some. But once you grab that concept of what they like, it becomes easy. So we try and put different activities and different opportunities for the girls, just as we do the boys. So that leadership role is something that we push a lot. A lot of kids nowadays, they want to be in the background. They don't want to be in the forefront. And that's not something we do here. We try and make sure everybody gets the opportunity to lead, whether they're leading morning announcements, whether they're leading prayer, whether they're leading the line, whether they're leading a conversation. But putting kids in that forefront so they can lead is something that we've been doing from day one as well. So with the girls coming in, we had to shift a little bit. Our focus and attention wasn't so much on the boys and what the boys needed, but it was what both needed at the same time. The girls needed an example just as much as the boys. So trying to find good examples was easy, because my ladies who were here working with the boys, they already had the training, they already had the encouragement, they already had the routine of what needed to be done. So just adding them, it made my female teachers more excited. So once we got the girls in, they were ready to start speaking groups, they were ready to start Girl Scouts, they were ready to start different after school activities to get them involved. Because as anyone would, if you were at a school that had mainly boys, you would be a little reluctant to participate. But we push our girls to be leaders, because right now, the truth be told, women are running the world. We want some of those women to be from Piney Grove. So giving them this space that we have, where we have STEM, we give them opportunities in our Key Club. We have debate, we have STEM, we have robotics, we have aviation, we have drones, and we have sports. So with all of these different opportunities for kids to participate in, we make sure the girls are included, whether they're playing football with the boys or playing basketball or on the STEM team. We incorporate these different life skills, so that when they go out into the real world, they're not the second fiddle, they're first. We want them to stand out, not from them just speaking, but from their look. So we make sure we remind our girls that you should smell good, you should look good, you're going to feel good. So having your hair done is important. Making sure your clothes are nice and neat are important. Making sure that you speak well and sound educated is also important. These things have to be talked about over and over, so they understand the importance of what you do as a child, you're going to do as an adult. So if you can have that maturity piece and know how to turn it on and off, now everything becomes very easy. So we ask our kids, are you dressed presentable or do you look questionable? This is something that we do
Mhm.
with our boys and our girls, because often they just get dressed not realizing they're being judged before they open their mouth. So this is going back and forth now because girls are becoming more dominant in the workplace. Girls are becoming more dominant in political figures. Girls are becoming more dominant in the classroom. So if they're going to be dominant, we want our girls to go to the forefront. So we make sure they get these opportunities to be leaders all the time.
This is an awesome dialogue because if I think about the content that you're making mention in reference to, it goes back to that expectation that you all have for them and the standards that's being presented. Because with your school, as many, some of the students are attending via scholarship, and so they're coming from various areas. Talk a little bit about that. Share some of one or two testimonies of, with youth who are living in urban areas, coming to this atmosphere where they're suited down and just huge expectation and the focus of the leadership. Talk a little bit about that transition for some of them coming into the environment that you all are setting up.
Well, one of the first things we do before any student attends is you have to have a meeting with me. And in that meeting, I go over some things with the parent, and I let them know I'm very transparent. So whatever I say in front of them, I'm going to say in front of the child, so that there's no secrets, there's no miscommunication. So a lot of our kids come in from the public school and they can wear what they want to wear. They're not being questioned or told how to dress or how to even have their hair. But when they come in, the expectation is set. I can't force you to come here, but you have to allow me to guide you. If you want change, you have to be able to accept change. And one of those changes is the way you dress. We want everybody to look presentable. It's way too often that our kids look questionable, and it's because of who they're looking at as their role models. Often kids find trends from the things that they're watching, our videos, our athletes. They're setting the trends and our kids want to be them, but they don't understand the work nor the expectations that come with those things. So we try and make it very relevant that when you dress a certain way, people treat you a certain way. And that comes from the ties that we're wearing, that comes from the clothes that they're wearing. So it makes them feel different. It makes them feel good. It's very difficult to get into an altercation in a full suit. So that's one of the reasons that we have our kids in shirt, ties, and blazers, because by the time you pull that jacket off and take that tie off, somebody's there. And if you really want to fight, you would have fought in your clothes. And that's not what you want to do, because you're going to rip those clothes. So that's something that's a deterrent. That's why the clubs do it. Hey, dress to impress. You're not going to try to mess up those clothes. So for our kids that come from these urban backgrounds that may not have the money to afford the uniforms, we do have ways where we sponsor some of our kids because we want them at their best. We don't want anyone to feel left out. And with the uniforms, it disguises or it hides the fact that everybody doesn't come from the same economic background. Unfortunately, I have a few kids that are homeless. I have a few kids that are living with relatives. I have a few kids who are living with a friend. But with the uniform, you can't tell who is who. Everybody looks the same. Everybody feels good because nobody's being teased by what they're wearing. So for a kid that comes from a different background, you might want to wear your pants sagging. You might want to wear a hoodie. You might want to wear the holes in your pants. But that's something you do on the weekend. When you're here, you're going to look like an adult, dress like an adult, sound like an adult. We want to give our kids the opportunity to grow. And a part of that is by reminding them, hey, you look good today, or setting that expectation. Expectation being we have moments where I will pull out the ironing board. You came to school wrinkled today. Let's go into the office. Let's see. It's not your mom's job to iron. It's your job to iron. Boys can be just as domestic as girls. So that's something we preach here as well. We don't allow our boys
Preach
to
and teach.
we don't allow our boys to blame mom for my uniform is wrinkled, but we praise those kids who come with the crease in their clothes, because again, everybody's going to grow up one day. So you need to know how to wash your own clothes, iron your own clothes, be your own man or woman. So a lot of the things that we do are life skills. We're not just pencil and paper, but we take our kids to different places to show them how you're treated when you get in front of somebody and you look like somebody. So when we go on field trips, I know I'm not in my suit right now, but we are suited and booted when we go on field trips. We took a group of kids to Washington, D.C. To visit the FBI. And while we were there, we went shopping in Governor Square, and we went into the mall. And once we entered the mall, we saw other kids that had on their shoes, pants sagging, the hoodies. And as we went into the store, we could see the people ushering them out. Oh, you need to get out. You need to get out. And we were walking into the same store. I want to say it was a Gucci store. And two workers came and opened the doors for us and tried to hand me and the kids champagne. They were like, come on in. And I said, well, wait, they're under 18. They said, but they're dressed so professional. This is who we want in our store. And I said, you see, people treat you different when you dress different, because they don't know who you are, but that gives them a sense of confidence. It gives them a sense of security that, hey, I don't think you're here to rob me, so I'm going to treat you like you're somebody because you look like somebody. And this is something that we teach all the time. So if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change.
And a part of, I believe, that transition that is going so well for you all with the scholars there at Piney Grove Academy, to go from you made mention of very traumatic living situations for a lot of these young people. But because they're coming to this school setting that is so in tune with them and so hands-on in regards to working with them on that one-on-one, meeting various needs. It's interesting. I heard a young man say a few days ago, and share that story with Jose, and how his family was being challenged with a situation, and how the school came to their aid. Those are things that you may not typically get in a public school setting or a larger school setting. A lot of times these children and their needs get lost, unfortunately, because of the numbers. How important was it for you all to make sure that you were taking a holistic approach, that you weren't just coming from education, but making sure that the total girl and boy was being met, their needs?
Okay, well, a lot of the things that we do just come from within. I can't say there's no book, there's not a script, but this is what you get when you have passionate people involved. And everybody that I've run into, they kind of grab my energy, and if I can feel that same energy, I'm going to give it right back. So a lot of my students will try to mimic what I'm doing. So when I'm out and about, I'm thinking about them. It's like you spend money on things you love. You spend time with things you love. Obviously, I'm still here at work. It's after 8, so I must really love my job. But this on my chest, when I say my family, this is what I really do, because this is our school shirt. This is what my staff wears. This is what the kids wear. We treat everybody as family. So as God would have it, we run into a lot of different people, because people see the passion in me. They see the passion in my mom and in my dad. So anytime they can help, they do. And we've run into a few people who are well endowed, and they've said, listen, I have some gently used furniture, and do you know anyone that could possibly use it? This lady lived in South Miami, and I have students that were in Broward. It was at least a 50-mile drive. And she said, yes, I have furniture. Do you want it? And we said yes. So we asked around to different students before even realizing that we needed to give it away. But we found a student, and one of my students, Jose, that their house had flood damage, and he has a family that is from another country, so they don't have as much money as everybody else to go out and buy a house full of furniture. And fortunately, this donor was giving away furniture. She said, I'm moving to Texas and I don't want to take anything. Take what you need. So my dad rented a U-Haul truck on his own dime. I drove his other truck and we packed up this lady's 5-bedroom house. We took as much as we could because they had, I want to say it was 7 people living in the house, and they needed several beds, couches, dressers, anything they could get. So we packed it all up and we contacted them and said, hey, if you want these things, we'll bring them by. So we took a Saturday, and my dad, myself, my mom, I want to say I even grabbed a couple friends, and they all just supported me. We rode down to Miami. We loaded the truck up, and we came back. And I want to say his dad was injured at the time. He couldn't help as much as he wanted to, and we didn't mind because we felt good seeing the smiles on their faces. So we delivered furniture at about 9 o'clock at night. And it was a good feeling. We didn't ask for anything. They didn't give anything. They just said thank you. And that was all we needed because we knew we were doing something positive because they were part of our family.
Powerful, powerful. And it's so refreshing to hear, what those students, when they come through those doors, just a place of safety and a place of promise. And as we are coming to the end of the show, I want you to talk a little bit about some of the exciting things that are happening at the Academy. And you have a very historic moment coming up on Friday the 28th. So share with our beautiful viewing audience, what are some exciting things that are happening at Piney Grove Academy?
Okay, well, one of the, I guess I'll start with one of the biggest things that we have right now is we are doing a documentary on the school. We have been recognized by different groups. I want to say James Comey, the former FBI director in Washington, he recognized us a few years ago for being the best hidden secret in Florida. And it wasn't, we took it as a joke, but honestly, we are. I mean, I'll go ahead and toot our own horn. We do a lot for a lot of people, and we're a small school making a big impact in South Florida. So with that, we were recognized by him, and then we started doing things like sending projects into outer space. So we have a project called Cubes in Space that we do every year, and we involve NASA. So NASA will come down to Piney Grove and spend about 2 weeks with us, teaching our teachers and our students what it's like to go off into space and what could we do to benefit society. So giving our kids the opportunity to actually work with real astronauts and visit Kennedy Space Center. We visited 3 NASA sites. I didn't know they had 3, so I learned something too. But we took the opportunity to do this with our kids because our biggest thing is exposure. We ask not, so we have not. And we try to teach our kids, if you ask for it, you just may get it. So taking them to NASA, getting NASA involved, sending experiments into space 2 years in a row, that was big for us. So that was something that we do. We also have an aviation program. Our aviation program, we partner with Florida Memorial University, which is a historical Black college in Miami, and we go down there to also teach our kids how to fly planes. What a lot of people don't talk about are the things we don't do. We don't see many Black pilots, but if there is a pilot shortage, there's going to be a really drastic shortage very soon, and a lot of kids don't realize they can make $250,000 a year flying planes. You can make even more being a private pilot for someone who's well off and have a good life, have a good vacation. But because most of us are afraid to fly, we don't talk about these things. But we have an aviation program, and we've had one for the last 6 years. And if kids stay in the program for 3 years, they can graduate with their private pilot's license and start flying before they turn 18. So there are a lot of opportunities that we provide. There's also the opportunity with our STEM program. We have a drone program and a robotics program. So our kids, if you are afraid to fly because someone has cast that fear into you, you can stay on the ground and fly a drone and make a good living flying a drone. You can work for real estate companies. You can work for the fire department. You can work for the police department. Everybody's using drones now because drones are they're less in cost. They're safer, and if something happens, they can just put up another one because everybody's going into technology. So we're trying to stay just as well as with the other schools like your American Heritages and your St. Thomas's. We are competing with them as well. So not to shade our academic side, but right before pandemic, our school was ranked third in the state, right behind Cardinal Gibbons and American Heritage academically. So our kids, more than 75% of our kids scored above the national average in reading and math. So not only are our kids athletic and into things, but they're also smart as well. So a lot of this information has gone missed because we're not doing negative things. We're not causing a big ruckus. So we don't have the coverage that we should. But I like it when we get coverage like the school that's in Chicago. Oh my gosh, I can't think of the name right now.
Urban Prep.
Urban Prep. Like when Urban Prep gets recognition for having so many kids graduate, 100% graduation rate. Those are the things that should get headlines, but they don't. You have to go looking in the paper and say, oh, this did happen. So it's an afterthought. We want to put our things on the forefront. So doing a documentary is something that we'll be doing in the near future. So on the 28th, we have a trailer. We're going to launch a trailer, which is going to talk about some of the history that Piney Grove has gone through. We're going to go with a few of the kids that have graduated and become successful because we are an accredited school. We're one of the few accredited private schools in Broward County. A lot of schools are K-8 for a reason because you don't have to be accredited. Where we are accredited, we've been accredited from, I guess, after our second or third year of existence, we went on ahead and got accredited. So our kids can go off to a college of their choice. And we're accredited by Flocks, and we're also accredited by the same company that accredits our school board of Broward County. So we make sure our teachers are certified and our kids are prepared. But this documentary is going to talk about how the kids from inner city can go on to do great things. It doesn't matter where you come from, but it matters where you end up. This every day is a journey for everybody. So we want our kids to enjoy their journey along the way and get something out of it. So if you have the opportunity to come out on October 28th at 7 o'clock or at 6:30, we're going to give you a tour of what is great about Piney Grove. And then at 7 o'clock, you'll be able to actually see the trailer of the documentary that we'll be shooting. So please come out 7 o'clock on the 28th, and you'll get a chance to see more about what I'm talking about today.
Well, there you have it. You all have heard from Principal Bolden, the gentleman who wears many hats there at the school, but he does it graciously. And I tell you, it's an exciting thing to know that a school like yours is in our community. So now we must do our part. So to our beautiful viewing audience, those who are local, those who are Tri-County, Miami, Broward, West Palm Beach, you definitely must be in the place next Friday. And so here's the awesome thing. They do so many things that they involve the scholars. So the tour of the academy, and you have to see it, is actually going to be done by the scholars there at the school. And so after you go through the tour, they have a lot of surprises that are going to be downstairs where the main event is taking place. They have an actual premiere of a few things. And so I definitely don't want to spoil it, but I am excited for what is happening in our community. And so Principal Bolden, as we close out this show, share with our viewing audience, because we may have some parents who are being challenged right now with behaviors with their children, and they're seeing signs that their child might drop out. They're seeing signs that their child is giving up on school for whatever reason. I just want you to close out in sharing a message with those parents of why it's so important to maintain that hope for their child.
Okay, this is probably my favorite part. We do something called Parent Cafe. This Parent Cafe allows us to, as parents, to have somebody to talk to. What we don't do is, it's very hard, or some of us find it embarrassing to share stories about our kids or find somebody who gives good advice that you can bounce things off of. It's kind of like what the kids do. The kids talk to other kids about us, but having somebody to talk to that's going to give you good advice is tough to do because we're so proud. So we kind of lose that in translation. So what I would say, if you're having trouble with your child, is don't give up. Keep trying different things because eventually you'll wear them down. What you have to work on is consistency and time. If you're not consistent, they're not going to give you the time. So you have to understand that in order to check them, you got to spend time with them. My kids at my school, they allow me to come to their home. They allow me to talk to their parents. They allow me to take their cell phones. A lot of parents will say, my child won't let me take their phone. That's one of our rules. We take the phone first thing in the morning. They get it back at the end of the day. I say, you don't have a wife, you don't have a kid, you don't have a job. So if somebody needs to call you, they'll call the office, but you will not be on this phone anytime today. So this is a set standard. So they know the expectation, they know the consequence, and they know the end result. So often we don't tell our kids the result. We don't tell them the expectation. We just assume they know. I often will ask a parent, if your child isn't cleaning up, have you showed him how to clean? And they will say, well, they saw me. No, you have to do it with them. And they're not going to get it right the first time. You have to be consistent over and over and over, just like somebody was with you. And if you learned by yourself, maybe you gave them too much in the beginning, and now you're assuming they're going to grasp the concept because they watched you. They're not, because they're not going to have that same drive that you do. So you have to make them earn the things, but don't take everything away from them. Allow them to earn things back. You give them reachable goals. You can't say, well, if you get straight A's, now you get a phone, and your child is never made higher than a C. You're setting the expectations too high. You know your children, so give them reachable goals, give them small goals, and add on to these goals all the time. You have to inspect what you expect. So if you don't inspect that they're doing their homework, you can't wait until the 9 weeks and be upset that they didn't pass. You have to check every day. So if that requires you to take some time away from what you're doing, do that. Show what they're doing matters. You can't just assume they're going to follow your lead or follow what you say and do it. It's like getting up in the middle of the night to make sure everybody's still in the house. That might be uncomfortable, but if your child is snuck out once or twice, he or she has to know that you're going to inspect their room. For me, if my child has been disrespectful, I'm taking the door off the hinge. There are no secrets in my house. There are no privacy. If you want privacy, that has to be earned, but I'm going to go in your room if I feel like it. There are no locked doors. So that expectation that you set, if you don't want them in your room, you have to stop it early. But if you're going to go in their room, let them know, under my house, under my roof, these are my rules. They have to respect that. And again, it's an understanding. It's a conversation. Also, you have to know that your kids have feelings. You can't be your way or the highway, and then you're not putting them out, because they're going to realize after time you're just talking. So the consistency in what you're saying, setting rules that are realistic, not trying to do things that's going to punish them forever. Like I've had parents take video games that they bought and throw them in the garbage. Well, now that child has nothing to look forward to every day. So they're going to be passive aggressive. They're going to hit you where it hurts. They're going to sneak and do things because you've taken away that one thing that matters. It's small things that matter to kids that we as parents have to realize what those small things are. In the past years, I've had 2 or 3 kids that had joined gangs and their parents didn't know. And I said, why did you join the game? And he said, because they love me and they give me candy. This was from a 14-year-old. And I said, they give you candy? He was like, yeah, they give me what I asked for. They don't harass me. When I need them, they there. When I want to talk to them, they there. They outside with me. And I said, you know what? You just need somebody to spend time with. Most of us don't have the time because we're working 2 or 3 or 4 jobs. But we got to find it. You got to push yourself. You have to make a way to let them know that they are important. And because you fail or because something bad happens, they might go to jail. They might get into a fight. They might wreck your car. It's not the end of the road. you have to show them how to get past tough times as well. Every day is a teachable moment. It can't be, oh, you're such a disappointment. It can't be, I'm going to curse you out every moment, because what they're
Right.
doing is they're learning limits. The limits that we're teaching them, they're teaching them how to address us, and we're also teaching them how to be adults. So either you can be a good example or you can be a bad example. But my advice to us all is don't give up. Keep trying. If it doesn't work, try something else. If that doesn't work, try something else. But please find somebody else to bounce these things off of. Because what we do at our parent cafes is we share different ideas. I share what I do at the school with the kids, how I get them to respond, how I get them to say things like please and thank you. This is basic, but you as parents, you can't let things slide. Don't let it slide if they don't tell you thank you. Don't let it slide if they don't say grace. Hey, stop and have dinner together. Those are things that are hidden gems that we don't do anymore. Turn the TV off.
Absolutely.
Get in the
Absolutely.
car, turn the radio off, put your cell phone down and talk to them. I turn my radio down and we talk. If they don't have nothing to say, then we're gonna sit in silence until something comes up. But we're not gonna turn the radio on, because I ride it with the radio all off when I'm in the car by myself. So you have to encourage them, teach them things to do as adults, because one day they're going to be a parent. So in order for them to be a good parent, we have to show them what works and what does not work. So you can be one or two examples. You can be a good example of how to be a parent, or you can be a bad example of how not to be a good parent. So that's my advice to you on that. And please, I will definitely start to share my parent cafes. I'll start to do a podcast of, hey, a hangout room for parents, because we don't have anybody to talk to. There's no book. So I think that would be a good conversation, as to talk about the different trials and tribulations that parents go through with their kids, who come off as sometimes being ungrateful. So that's my bit on being a good parent. Just don't give up. Keep trying, keep trying, keep trying.
So you've heard it from Principal Bolden, and you heard a mouthful. So you can only imagine how that parent cafe is. And so for our beautiful viewing audience who would like to get more information about the Academy, about the Parent Cafe and your podcast, how can they get in touch with you?
Well, they can definitely follow us on Instagram. It's Piney Grove Academy. You can find us there. For the podcast, we'll start airing them on there as well. So if you want to see more of what I'm talking about, you want to see more of me, please follow us on Instagram, Piney Grove Academy. You'll see us there. You can follow us on Facebook, Piney Grove Academy also. So you can go to both platforms and you can see a lot of the things that we've done in the past, a lot of things that we're doing currently. And you'll be able to see us also on YouTube. We have a YouTube channel that we share a lot of our videos on as well. So you'll see some information about us, and you'll also see the parent cafes. They'll start to be uploaded to the YouTube channel as well. So the Piney Grove Academy YouTube channel, there's Piney Grove Academy Instagram, and Piney Grove Academy on Facebook.
All right, so there you have it. That is your way to get in touch. The school actually does tours as well. If you are looking for a scholastic environment where your child can truly thrive, you can come out and actually get a tour and speak with Mr. Bolden, Principal Bolden, in reference to being able to service your child. And so, again, Principal Bolden, I want to thank you so much for coming on Beautiful Life and just sharing. It definitely is a hidden treasure, and I cannot wait for you all to attend the watch on next Friday, because you're going to be blown away that this is our neighborhood. And so now it's our time to give back. And so as we wrap up with this amazing show, you all were blowing the comment section up. You Dillard people, we see you, we see you, we see you. But I just want to thank again everyone for joining in, for being such a beautiful co-host in your comments, and just the encouragement to Principal Bolden. They are doing a yeoman's job, and it requires not only the the muscle, but also the financial backing. And so, as led, pray about how you will participate and support this endeavor. They are on the cusp of 10 years. And so next year will be 10 years at this institution through pandemic, through, everything that they've had to experience, they're still standing. And so that says a lot about Piney Grove Academy. And as I say all the time, we have an opportunity to live a beautiful life through God. But when we do that, it comes with a huge responsibility. So, again, I want to thank you all for tuning in. I am your host, JQ.
I'm living a beautiful life. I'm making a beautiful life. I'm changing, rearranging. I see a beautiful day.